Have you ever had the strange feeling that you were working so hard, but not really moving anywhere? Like your days are full of effort, but not expansion. You check things off the list, you handle the emails, you maintain routines, but inside, a part of you wonders if you're actually evolving or just orbiting in a comfortable loop. This is what I call moving without motion. It's when focus exists, but it's zoned in only on what's safe, familiar, and predictable. The mind stays locked in the easy zones of process instead of leaning into the raw aliveness of the unknown. And here's the paradox I want to open with. True growth never comes from the comfortable, it comes from the cracks. It's in the friction, the disruption, the places where the nervous system wants to recoil, that life reorganizes itself. Think about it. Every major breakthrough in your life probably came when you were disrupted, when something shook the ground under your feet and you had no choice but to reorganize. The problem is that most of us have been conditioned by school systems, by society, even by our families to cling to comfort zones. We are taught that control equals safety, that predictability is stability. But control is not growth. Predictability is not expansion. The irony is that the more we cling to certainty, the more we block the intelligence of life itself, because disruption is not chaos, it is design. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon deeply. Carol Dweck, the researcher who coined the term growth mindset, showed that when we stay in the fixed mindset, avoiding challenges, we plateau, we stagnate. Our brain literally prunes away pathways of creativity because they're not being used. But when we embrace challenge, when we step into uncertainty, the brain rewires itself. New connections form, neuroplasticity expands. And this, at a quantum level, is coherence reorganizing reality itself. So when you feel yourself staying only in the comfort zone of process, ask yourself, am I really moving? Or am I repeating? Am I circling a familiar orbit? Or am I stepping into the quantum field of possibility where real transformation takes place? Let me reframe this in simple terms. Disruption is not a problem to be solved. It's intelligence at work. The unknown is not a void. It's a field of living probabilities waiting to respond to your frequency. Reality reorganizes not around what you think you should do, but around who you are becoming in this moment. Every time you embody a new frequency, every time you allow your nervous system to expand into discomfort, the field mirrors back a new set of possibilities. This is not just philosophy. Your physiology changes when you lean into the unknown. Neuroscientists studying brainwave states have shown that when you release control and step into present awareness, your brain shifts from high beta fight or flight patterns into alpha and theta states. These are states of creativity, intuition, and coherence. Your heart rate variability improves, meaning your body enters a state of flexible resilience. You literally gain access to more intelligence, not by forcing, but by allowing. Think of the caterpillar. It does not strategize how to become a butterfly. It literally dissolves inside the cocoon. What looks like chaos, breakdown, even death, is intelligence reorganizing matter into a higher form. If the caterpillar resisted that process, if it clung to its old identity, there would be no butterfly. And yet in our human lives, we resist our own cocoons every day. We cling to being the caterpillar because it's familiar. But the cocoon, the disruption, is where your DNA remembers how to fly. And so we come to one of the most profound teachings from quantum physics, the observer effect. Reality is not happening to you, it's happening through you. The act of observation collapses infinite probabilities into a single experienced reality. What you focus on becomes your world. If you focus only on the comfortable, you collapse only the probabilities of comfort. You recycle the known. But if you open to the unknown, you collapse new potentialities into form. This is why spiritual teachers for centuries have spoken of surrender. Surrender is not giving up. It's aligning with a higher frequency of intelligence that knows more than your mind. When you step into this active surrender, you allow life to reorganize around your becoming rather than your clinging. I want you to imagine your life as a vast tapestry. Each thread represents a choice, an experience, a pattern. When you only stay in the comfort zones, you keep weaving with the same color threads, the same safe patterns. The tapestry becomes predictable, even dull. But when disruption enters, when you let yourself explore the unknown, it's as if new colors, new textures, new weaves appear. The tapestry becomes richer, more alive, more multidimensional. And this is what reality is offering you at every moment, an upgrade in your weave. Let me ground this even further in the body. The nervous system is the gateway between your consciousness and your lived experience. When you stay in the comfortable, the nervous system narrows. It keeps running the same sympathetic cycles of mild stress or mild safety, but not expansion. When you step into the unknown, yes, there's discomfort. The sympathetic nervous system fires up, but if you stay present with it, breathe into it, and embody coherence, the system rewires itself. It learns that the unknown is not a threat, but a playground, and in that moment, your field of possibility expands. So here is the core teaching I want you to feel. Reality doesn't happen to you, it happens through you. You are not just the observer of your life, you are the field itself folding back into experience. You are both the wave and the particle, both the question and the answer. When you embody coherence, when your breath, your heart, your mind, and your attention align, you become a tuning fork for reality to reorganize around. This is quantum coherence. And the opposite is also true. When you scatter your energy, when you cling to comfort zones, when you avoid disruption, you decohere, you become fragmented. And reality mirrors that fragmentation back. Scarcity, struggle, repetition. But coherence is abundance. Coherence is flow. Coherence is the state where synchronicities appear, where opportunities show up at the right time, where life feels like it is moving through you effortlessly. This is why I often remind you, abundance is not something you chase, it's something you are. Scarcity is forgetting. Abundance is remembering. Remembering that you are the field. Remembering that life is participatory. Remembering that coherence is your natural state. I want to pause here and invite you into a small activation. If you're listening right now, take a slow breath in. Let your exhale be long and gentle. Feel your awareness expand just slightly beyond the edges of your body. Imagine that your attention is not trapped in your head, but radiating from your entire field. And as you do this, say to yourself, life is happening through me. Not to me, not for me, but through me. This is coherence. If this resonates, I invite you to comment the word coherence below. This is more than a comment, it's an activation. When you declare a word publicly, you're broadcasting a frequency into the field. Others will feel it, and the collective coherence amplifies. When we talk about moving without motion, what we are really describing is the ego's favorite strategy for survival. The ego says, as long as I'm busy, I'm safe. As long as I'm controlling, I'm in charge. As long as I'm repeating, I exist. But here's the hidden cost. Busyness without evolution creates a subtle exhaustion. You feel like you're always working, but the deeper fulfillment never arrives. Because fulfillment is not found in safety, it's found in alignment. Psychologists have long studied the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, who created self-determination theory, discovered that when we are driven by extrinsic motivation, like approval, safety, or external validation, we feel drained. But when we are moved by intrinsic motivation, meaning, purpose, curiosity, growth, we feel energized, even when the work is hard. Comfort zones keep us locked in extrinsic cycles. Discomfort is what awakens intrinsic drive. That's why, when you think back on your life, the most meaningful chapters weren't the easiest ones. They were the ones that stretched you, broke you open, forced you to meet yourself at a deeper level. There's something sacred about those moments of unraveling, because only when the old identity cracks can the true self shine through. This is not a new idea. Ancient mystics called this process the dark night of the soul. Psychologists today call it post-traumatic growth, Neuroscientists call it neuroplastic reorganization, but in the language of quantum consciousness, we call it coherence through disruption. The field uses friction to refine frequency. Here's a metaphor to bring it alive. Imagine an orchestra tuning before a concert. At first it sounds chaotic, violins screeching, horns blaring, no harmony at all. But that chaos is intelligence. Each instrument is finding its pitch, aligning to the same reference tone. When they finally settle into coherence, the music begins. Life works the same way. The chaos before the harmony is not a mistake, it's the tuning process. And yet, most of us quit in the tuning stage. We mistake the noise for failure. We run back to comfort. We label it too hard or not for me. But if you stay through the tuning, coherence arrives. And once coherence clicks in, you realize the noise was never noise at all. It was the intelligence of reorganization. This is where the physiology comes in again. HeartMath Institute has shown through decades of research that when you enter heart coherence, when your heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered, your brain function improves, creativity rises, emotional stability increases. You literally access higher intelligence. And this coherence often comes not by avoiding discomfort, but by breathing into it, by expanding into the unknown instead of retreating. Let's zoom this out to the dimensional levels of consciousness. In 3D consciousness, life feels linear. You think if I just work hard enough, if I just control enough variables, I'll get where I want. That's the survival mindset. In 4D consciousness, you begin awakening. You see synchronicities. You question reality. You feel the veil thinning. But it's still dualistic. You still wrestle between trust and fear. And in 5D consciousness, you embody unity. You realize life is not happening to you, but through you. The unknown is no longer threatening, it's the playground of creation. Here's the key: you don't bypass 3D, you integrate it. You don't reject the human, the body, the structure. You bring coherence into it. You stabilize more in 5D while still navigating 3D responsibilities. And how do you bridge those dimensions? Through embodiment. Not affirmations, not concepts, embodiment. Living the frequency in your breath, in your micro actions, in your nervous system regulation. So let me ask you, where in your life are you moving without motion? Where are you staying busy but not expanding? Where are you clinging to control instead of opening to coherence? Just bringing awareness to these areas begins the shift, because awareness collapses new probabilities. I want to give you a very practical tool here. I call it the observer breath. Whenever you feel yourself contracting, whenever you notice you're looping in comfort zones, pause. Take one slow inhale, and as you exhale, imagine stepping back into the observer. Not the thinker, not the doer, not the fixer, the witness. The field that is watching the moment. When you do this, you literally shift your brainwaves. You exit survival beta, and you touch alpha. You shift from identification to liberation, from moving without motion to moving as the field. And here's the beauty. You don't have to do this for hours. Even 10 seconds of observed breath can reset coherence. And every time you do it, you strengthen the neural pathways of presence. The same way lifting weight strengthens muscle fibers, observer breath strengthens awareness fibers. You become more resilient, more fluid, more able to step into the unknown. There's another layer here. When you shift yourself, you shift the field. Quantum entanglement tells us that nothing is separate. When you embody coherence, it ripples outward. Other people feel it, even if they don't know why. You walk into a room, and suddenly the energy feels calmer, lighter. This is not metaphor, it's physics. Your coherence entrains the coherence of the collective, and that is how personal awakening becomes planetary awakening. So your mission, if you feel it, is not small. Every time you choose coherence over control, every time you expand instead of contract, you are literally contributing to the evolution of humanity. That may sound grand, but it's real. Mission determines intensity. If your life feels intense right now, if the upgrades feel relentless, it's not because you're failing. It's because your mission is big. The field is refining you for coherence because the collective needs your frequency. And this is where abundance ties in. Abundance is not about money in the bank. That's a reflection, yes, but not the essence. Abundance is identity. It's the knowing that you are the field, that you are infinite, that scarcity is an illusion of disconnection. When you remember abundance as your nature, you stop chasing and you start emanating. And reality mirrors it back in resources, opportunities, synchronicities. Let me give you a daily integration practice. Each morning before you reach for your phone, close your eyes, place your hand on your heart, take 3 slow breaths, and say one sentence identity script. I am coherence, or I am abundance, or whatever anchor word feels alive for you. Repeat it not as a thought, but as a broadcast. Feel your whole field radiating that frequency. This is how you collapse probabilities. Not by thinking about it, but by embodying it. And at night before sleep, repeat the same. This primes your subconscious field. Because sleep is not passive, it's a quantum rehearsal. Your subconscious collapses realities even as you dream. When you seed coherence before sleep, you wake up in a more aligned timeline. So if you take nothing else from this message, let it be this. Disruption is intelligence. The unknown is not empty. It is alive with possibility. Moving without motion is the ego's trap. Real motion happens when you step into coherence, when you live as the field. And if you feel resonance with this, I invite you again. Comment the word abundance below. This is not just engagement, it's alignment. It's a declaration. And when many of us declare together, the field amplifies it. This is how we build not just a channel, but a collective movement. There's a paradox at the heart of human transformation that I want to explore with you. We crave evolution, yet resist the very conditions that allow it. We want expansion, but cling to what feels safe. We pray for breakthroughs, but avoid the unknown where breakthroughs live. This is why so many people spend years moving without motion, because as they mistake comfort for alignment and safety for truth. But here's the thing, the intelligence of life does not live in your comfort zone. It lives in the edges, the threshold, the liminal space where the old identity dissolves and the new self hasn't fully emerged yet. That space is uncomfortable, yes, but it is also holy. It is where probability collapses into possibility. Let me anchor this in psychology for a moment. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the researcher who coined the term flow, discovered that humans enter their most creative, joyful states, not when tasks are too easy and not when tasks are too hard, but when they are right on the edge of challenge. Too much comfort and you get boredom. Too much difficulty and you get anxiety. But in the sweet spot between them, the threshold, you enter flow. That threshold is exactly what I'm calling the unknown. The tragedy is that many people never step into it. They stay in the zone of comfort, recycling what they already know. And here's where the neuroscience comes in. When you repeat the same patterns, your brain conserves energy. It runs on predictive coding. That's why habits feel automatic. But when you step into novelty, when you risk the unknown, your brain lights up. New neural pathways fire. Neurochemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine surge. This is the biology of growth. So think of your own life right now. Where are you recycling? Where are you choosing the predictable loop over the unknown possibility? Be honest, because awareness is the first collapse of a new reality. And remember, randomness is not chaos. In quantum physics, randomness is intelligence. The field is probabilistic, not deterministic, which means what feels like uncertainty is actually a deeper design reorganizing you. Just like the vacuum of space isn't empty, but filled with quantum fluctuations, your unknown is not void. It is pregnant with infinite potential. Let's look at an example. Imagine a person stuck in a job they don't love. They feel safe. They get the paycheck. They know the routine. But deep down, they feel stagnant. They are moving without motion. The universe begins to disrupt them. A layoff threat, a restructuring, maybe just increasing dissatisfaction. If they resist, they suffer. But if they reframe the disruption as intelligence, if they step into the unknown, suddenly doors open, new opportunities appear, synchronicities align. The discomfort was not punishment, it was the intelligence of evolution guiding them into coherence with their true self. That's why endings are always beginnings. Every breakdown is a breakthrough in disguise. The caterpillar doesn't mourn its form when it dissolves. It trusts the intelligence of the cocoon. And so must we. And here's where the tapestry metaphor returns. When one thread unravels, you think the design is ruined. But step back and you realize the unraveling was necessary for a new pattern to emerge. Life is not deleting your story, it's upgrading your weave. So let me ask again, where in your life right now is the field inviting you into the unknown? Where is the disruption? Where is the discomfort? Instead of resisting, can you reframe it as the intelligence of coherence calling you forward? This is what I mean when I say reality happens through you. You are not a victim of randomness. You are the field itself exploring new arrangements. The observer effect proves it. Your attention collapses probabilities into form, which means every time you hold attention in coherence, in trust, in presence, in alignment, you are literally shaping your timeline. And the opposite is true too. When you scatter your focus, when you stay locked in fear, when you cling to comfort, you decohere. Decoherence collapses fragmented probabilities. That's when life feels random, disconnected, frustrating. But again, even that is intelligence, because decoherence is feedback. It's showing you where to realign. Let's get practical again. I want to give you a tool for those moments when discomfort arises and your nervous system wants to retreat. It's called active surrender. Active surrender is not passive. It's not collapsing into apathy. It's choosing to trust while still showing up. Here's how you practice it. Step 1, notice the discomfort. Don't label it wrong. Don't run from it. Just notice. Step 2, breathe into your heart. Science shows that heart-focused breathing synchronizes brain and heart rhythms within 90 seconds. Step 3, silently say, I trust the field. Step 4, take one small aligned action even if it feels uncomfortable. That's active surrender. It's aligning physiology, psychology, and quantum coherence in one simple practice. Try this for 30 days and watch what happens. You'll notice disruptions no longer terrify you. Unknowns no longer paralyze you. Instead, they become thresholds into new intelligence. And remember this, personal disruption contributes to collective awakening, because entanglement means your frequency is not isolated. When you shift, the field shifts. The butterfly effect is not just poetic, it's quantum. One coherent choice ripples across the web of reality. This is why mission determines intensity. The greater your mission, the greater the intensity of disruption you'll face. Because the field is sculpting you into coherence strong enough to hold the frequency of your purpose. So if life feels intense right now, if disruptions keep arriving, maybe it's not because you're cursed. Maybe it's because your mission is massive, and the field is preparing you to embody it. This is why you can't measure abundance by comfort. Abundance is not how easy your life feels. Abundance is how aligned your frequency is. You can be in disruption and still be in abundance if you remember who you are. Because abundance is not external, it is your identity as the field. I want to give you a one-sentence identity script for this. Repeat after me. I am the field in coherence. Reality flows through me. Say it, feel it, embody it. This is more than words. It's a frequency broadcast. And if this resonates, pause for a moment and comment the word alignment below. When you do, you're not just typing, you're tuning. You're signaling to the field, to the algorithm, to the collective, that you are part of this coherence, and we amplify it together. There's something I want you to feel in your bones. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not missing your destiny. What you call delays are simply calibrations. What you call setbacks are refinements. The field is not punishing you, it is preparing you. And often preparation feels like stagnation, when in truth, it is gestation. Think about a seed in the soil. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. Days, weeks, months pass, and all you see is dirt. But under the surface, roots are spreading, cells are multiplying, structure is forming. If you judge that seed as stuck, you would miss the miracle. The seed is not moving without motion. The seed is building unseen coherence so that when it breaks the surface, it thrives. Many of you listening are in that soil stage. You think you're stuck, but really, you're rooting. You think you're delayed, but really you're being strengthened. Comfort zones keep you shallow, but disruption drives your roots deeper. So when you emerge, you're unshakable. This is why patience is not passive, it is active trust. Neuroscience even supports this. Studies show that delayed gratification activates the prefrontal cortex, strengthening executive function. Which means when you trust the unseen process, you are literally rewiring your brain for greater coherence and long-term intelligence. And here's a cosmic truth. Nothing is wasted. Not the waiting, not the wandering, not even the breakdowns. Every thread is woven into your tapestry. Even your mistakes were data points in your evolution. The field wastes nothing. But let's address the shadow side. Why do we cling so fiercely to the comfortable? Psychology gives us an answer. It's called the familiarity principle. Humans have a bias toward the known, even if it's suboptimal. We'd rather repeat pain we understand than risk a possibility we don't. That's why people stay in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, identities that no longer fit. The brain confuses familiarity with safety. But safety and aliveness are not the same. Think about it. What stories have you told yourself to justify staying small? At least I know what to expect. Better the devil I know. These are not truths, they are ego defenses. And the price of staying in them is moving without motion. Let's disrupt that right here. I want you to imagine your comfort zone as a room. It's decorated, familiar, predictable. But outside the door is an infinite landscape of possibility. You peek through the doorway and your nervous system trembles. The ego says, don't go, stay where it's safe. But the soul says, step out, the field will meet you. And here's the paradox. The moment you step out, you realize the fear was an illusion. The field catches you. The ground forms beneath your feet as you walk. This is quantum tunneling. In physics, particles can pass through barriers that should be impossible. They don't go over, they don't go around, they shift through. And you can too. What feels like a barrier in your life may not be solid at all. It may be an energetic threshold waiting for you to change frequency. The moment you embody coherence, you tunnel through. This is why trying to control reality doesn't work. You can't force your way through quantum barriers. You shift through them by changing your state, which is why embodiment matters more than affirmation. You can say, I am abundant 1,000 times, but if your body is broadcasting fear, the field mirrors fear. But when your body, your breath, your heart, your attention align, you broadcast coherence, and the barrier dissolves. Let's take a moment to practice. Breathe in slowly. As you exhale, feel your body soften. Place your awareness in your heart. Imagine broadcasting the word abundance, not as a thought, but as a frequency radiating from your field. Hold it for a few seconds. That is embodiment. That is observation collapsing reality. Do you feel the difference? This is not wishful thinking. This is participatory reality. You are not separate from the field. You are the field folding into form. And this brings us to one of the most liberating truths. You don't need to fix reality. You don't need to chase alignment. You don't need to fight your way to abundance. You simply remember what you already are. Scarcity is forgetting. Abundance is remembering. Remembering that you are consciousness itself. Remembering that the field flows through you. Remembering that coherence is your natural state. But let's not sugarcoat it. Remembering is not always easy, because false selves, protective identities, and old conditioning cling tightly. The ego was built to keep you safe, and when you expand, it panics. That's why spiritual awakening often feels like death. It's the death of the false self, not the true one. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of integrating the shadow, facing the unconscious, and embodying the true self. He said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And he was right. But here's what he didn't say. Pain is not punishment, it's purification. Discomfort is not evidence you're failing, it's evidence you're upgrading. So instead of asking, how do I avoid discomfort? Ask, how do I meet it with coherence? Because when you meet discomfort with coherence, it transforms into fuel. It rewires your nervous system, it collapses new probabilities, it reveals more of your true self. Here's a story to illustrate. A woman I once worked with was terrified of public speaking. She avoided it her whole life, but her mission required it. She wanted to teach, to guide, to inspire. So eventually she stepped into the discomfort. Her hands shook, her voice cracked, her heart raced. But instead of resisting, she breathed into it. She practiced the observer breath, and each time her nervous system recalibrated. Within months, she wasn't just speaking, she was thriving. What was once terror became flow. That's coherence in action. Your story may not be public speaking. It may be leaving a job, starting a project, opening your heart in a relationship, or simply telling the truth. But the principle is the same. The discomfort is intelligence. The unknown is the playground, and your coherence is the bridge. So let me give you another practical tool. At any moment of fear, ask yourself, is this fear a signal of danger or a signal of expansion? Most of the time, it's expansion. Your nervous system is simply stretching beyond the familiar. When you recognize that, the fear softens. It no longer means stop, it means go. And as you practice this, you begin to stabilize in a new story. The story that says, I am not moving without motion. I am in coherence. I am abundance. This story becomes your broadcast, and the field mirrors it back. So take this in. Reality is participatory. Love is the intelligence beneath it all. Abundance is your nature, and coherence is your power. If this resonates, I want you to pause, take a breath, and comment the word trust below. Because that's what this path really is. Not certainty, not control, trust. Trust in the intelligence of the field, trust in the coherence of your being, trust that the unknown is alive with possibility. There is a hidden rhythm to life that most people never notice. It pulses beneath the surface of routines, responsibilities, and roles. If you listen closely, you'll feel it. It's the rhythm of expansion and contraction, coherence and decoherence, birth and death. The problem is that we've been trained to resist half of this rhythm. We chase the expansion but fear the contraction. We celebrate beginnings but avoid endings. We want coherence but reject disruption. But what if the contractions are not setbacks? What if endings are not failures? What if decoherence is simply feedback, life recalibrating you for a higher frequency? Think about breathing. You inhale and you exhale. You can't inhale forever or you suffocate. You need both rhythms to stay alive. Expansion and contraction. The same is true for your evolution. You need seasons of coherence and seasons of disruption. You need moments of flow and moments of friction. Without both, you stagnate. This is why the illusion of moving without motion feels so draining. It pretends you're progressing, but it denies the rhythm. It keeps you stuck in shallow cycles of predictable comfort. But real life, real evolution, is rhythmic. And when you embrace the full rhythm, when you trust both the inhale and the exhale, you discover a deeper freedom. Let me anchor this in neuroscience. The brain's default mode network, which governs self-referential thought, lights up when you're idle, when you're in comfort. But it's also the network most associated with rumination, with looping stories, with repeating the known. When disruption comes, the salience network and executive network activate. You start forming new connections. Your brain reorganizes. The alternation between these states is essential for creativity, which means the very chaos you fear is what keeps your mind alive. And at a quantum level, this rhythm mirrors the principle of superposition. Before you collapse a reality into form, you hold multiple potentials at once. Expansion is the choice, contraction is the reset. Both are necessary. Without contraction, you never clear space for new probabilities. Without expansion, you never embody them. Let's look at it through story. Imagine a tapestry being woven. Threads stretch across the loom, forming patterns. But every so often, a thread must be cut, knotted, or redirected. If you only stretch threads endlessly, you wouldn't create a design. You just have chaos. The cuts, the endings, the disruptions are not mistakes. They are essential to the beauty of the pattern. This is why clinging to comfort is a kind of spiritual amnesia. It forgets the rhythm. It forgets that endings are beginnings, that contractions prepare expansions, that decoherence is not death, but design. Here's a personal exercise you can try. Take out a piece of paper and draw a wave. Peaks and valleys, expansion and contraction. Then write down a few moments in your life that felt like peaks, joy, success, flow, and write down a few valleys, loss, endings, disruptions. Now step back and look. Do you see the rhythm? The valleys led to the peaks. The endings led to the beginnings. The contractions prepared the expansions. This is your proof, written in your own story, that disruption is intelligence. And here's what I want you to feel. You are not failing when you are in a valley. You are calibrating. You are not lost when you face disruption. You are being rewoven. When you remember this, you stop panicking in the valleys. You breathe through them. You meet them with coherence. And that is when miracles appear. Because miracles don't happen in comfort zones. They happen in the gaps. They happen when logic collapses, when control fails, when the old identity cracks. That's when the quantum field can rush in with new probabilities. That's when synchronicities align, when unexpected doors open, when breakthroughs emerge. This is why spiritual traditions speak of surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is rhythm. It is breathing with the universe instead of holding your breath. It is letting the field reorganize you instead of resisting the recalibration. I want to ground this in a metaphor you'll never forget. Imagine surfing. You paddle out, you catch a wave, you ride the flow. But no surfer expects one endless ride. The wave ends, you fall, you paddle again. If a surfer judged the fall as failure, they'd never ride. The fall is part of the rhythm. The disruption is part of the dance. And the mastery is not in avoiding the falls, but in trusting the rhythm enough to paddle back out. Your life works the same way. Stop judging the falls. Stop fearing the valleys. Stop resisting the contractions. They are not evidence you're stuck. They are the rhythm of coherence itself. Let me bring in the nervous system here because embodiment matters. When you face disruption, your sympathetic nervous system fires. Adrenaline, cortisol, stress response. If you resist, you amplify the stress. But if you breathe into it, if you soften into coherence, your parasympathetic system engages. Oxytocin and serotonin balance the stress hormones. You enter resilience. This is not bypassing, it's physiology. You are teaching your body that disruption is safe, and every time you do, you strengthen coherence. Heart math studies show that heart coherence increases intuition and synchronicity, which means the very act of trusting disruption makes you more magnetic to miracles. This is why abundance flows through trust, not control. Control contracts. Trust expands. Control collapses probabilities into scarcity. Trust collapses probabilities into abundance. And you get to choose which field you live in. So let me ask you, what story are you broadcasting today? Are you broadcasting fear and control, clinging to comfort, moving without motion? Or are you broadcasting trust and coherence, letting reality flow through you? Here's a one-sentence script you can carry. I breathe with the rhythm of life. Expansion and contraction, both are intelligence. Repeat it until it becomes your baseline. And as always, let's anchor together. Take one slow inhale, long exhale, place a hand on your heart, whisper the word coherence. And when you're ready, comment that word below. Because in naming it, you're not just engaging, you're activating. You're adding your frequency to the field we're weaving here. And together, that coherence grows. There's a phrase I want you to carry forward. Life is not happening to you. It is happening through you. When you really let that in, it dissolves the illusion of stuckness. Because if life is flowing through you, then every disruption is part of the flow. Every unknown is part of the intelligence. Moving without motion only happens when you forget this truth, when you identify only with the small self, the protective self, the one clinging to certainty. But the deeper self, the true self, does not cling. The true self knows it is the field itself. It is not afraid of disruption because it is disruption. It is not afraid of the unknown because it is the unknown, endlessly alive with potential. This is what quantum physics whispers to us, that you are not a separate observer standing outside reality. You are the field folding into form. You are the probability wave collapsing into experience. You are entangled with everything, which means the same intelligence that spins galaxies also flows through your breath right now. And when you forget this, you shrink into scarcity. Scarcity is forgetting that you are the field. Scarcity is mistaking your identity for the small self, the protective ego. Scarcity is moving without motion, repeating safe loops, recycling the known. But abundance is remembering. Abundance is not money, not possessions, not success. Those are expressions. Abundance is identity. It is remembering that you are the infinite field itself. When you remember, you broadcast it, and the field mirrors it back in synchronicities, opportunities, resources. Let's bring this into practical terms. Every day you are broadcasting a frequency, not with your words, but with your state, your beliefs, your emotions, your embodiment. All of it emits a signal, and the field responds to that signal. This is not mysticism, it's physics. The observer effect proves it. Entanglement confirms it. Your broadcast is your reality. So ask yourself, what am I broadcasting today? Fear or trust? Scarcity or abundance? Comfort or coherence? This awareness alone begins to shift the signal. And here's a simple practice to amplify it. I call it the anchor word ritual. Each morning, choose one word that embodies your desired state. Coherence, abundance, trust, flow. Place your hand on your heart, breathe slowly, and broadcast that word with your whole field. Not as a thought, but as a vibration. Repeat it until your body feels it. That word becomes your anchor, and throughout the day, return to it. Whisper it, breathe it, radiate it. Over time, your anchor word becomes your frequency, and your frequency becomes your reality. This is embodiment. This is how you stop moving without motion. Because you're no longer recycling the known, you're broadcasting coherence into the field, and reality reorganizes around it. And I want to reassure you of something. You don't have to do this perfectly. You don't have to hold coherence 24/7. Life is rhythmic, remember, expansion and contraction, coherence and decoherence. The key is not perfection, it's return. Every time you remember, every time you breathe, every time you choose trust, you return. And each return strengthens the frequency. Think of it like tuning an instrument. No musician expects a violin to stay perfectly tuned forever. They tune, they play, they retune. Coherence works the same way. The practice is the tuning. The return is the mastery. And the more you practice, the more you notice something extraordinary. Life begins to feel lighter. Synchronicities increase. The right people show up at the right time. Doors open where there used to be walls. You feel supported, guided, carried. This is not coincidence. This is coherence amplifying, because coherence is magnetic. Decoherence repels, coherence attracts. When your field is aligned, reality rearranges to meet you. This is what mystics call grace, what quantum physics calls entanglement, what psychology calls flow. Different languages, same truth. And here's the bigger picture. Your personal coherence strengthens the collective coherence. Each time you return to trust, each time you embody abundance, you are not just healing yourself, you are upgrading the field of humanity. Your breath ripples into the quantum fabric. Your anchor word becomes part of the planetary broadcast. This is why your awakening matters. It's not selfish, it's service. So if you've ever doubted your path, if you've ever wondered why the intensity of your life feels overwhelming, let me remind you, mission determines intensity. The bigger your mission, the more the field will refine you. The more disruption you'll face, the more cocoons you'll enter, the more upgrades you'll undergo. Not because you're broken, but because you're chosen, because your frequency matters for the collective. And here's the closing invitation. Stop moving without motion. Stop clinging to the safe loops of the known. Step into the unknown with trust. Meet disruption with coherence. Broadcast abundance as your identity, and watch as reality flows through you in ways you could never have planned. Let's seal this with one final activation. Close your eyes if you can. Take one slow inhale. Exhale gently. Place your hand on your heart. Whisper this mantra: I am safe, I am coherent, I am abundance. Feel it not just in your mind, but in your whole body. Let it radiate. And when you're ready, comment one word below: abundance, coherence, or trust. That word is your signal. That word is your alignment. That word is your new story. And as you do, know this: you are not alone. You are part of a movement, a collective awakening, a tapestry being rewoven by love itself. Subscribe, stay aligned, and remember, you are not moving without motion anymore. You are reality flowing in coherence. You are the field embodied.